Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sum of Our Parts, a podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
I'm Jim.
and this week it is my pick.
Lindsay, what did you select for it this week?
So as with most of these picks, went back to movies I enjoyed in my childhood, and we are taking it back to 1997 with an incredible biopic, Selena.
Excellent choice.
Yes, thank
I
you.
have to start off by saying I knew the story, but I have never seen the movie until now. Uh,
Okay, okay.
so thank you for that. So you introduced me to a movie that I had not seen before, and I will say up front, I really enjoyed this one. I really did.
Good. I'm glad. And I think for me, sometimes there's movies you watch as a kid and then you watch as an adult and you're like, but I think this is one of the ones that holds up for me. This is one that I used to watch again a lot with my dad. Movies when I was a kid were mostly with my dad. He's the movie person. And my dad also, I think, was always a big fan of sort of like I guess like the divas, I would say, sort of like in the sense of like VH1 Divas Live. So it was a lot of like
Okay.
Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, like that sort of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that Selena kind of fits that in sort of the like the Latina kind of lane, like the Tejana music lane of that. So I don't think I saw this in theaters, but this is definitely one that we watched on TV or like rented, things like that. My dad had the CD. I think it was Selena's greatest hits, just like imagining like the cover. I think it was the greatest hits, not the soundtrack of this movie, but we listened to that a lot. My dad does not know a word of Spanish though. So it was a lot of kind of like bitty bitty bum bum, kind of the like mumbling through it.
Gotcha.
But
So
definitely like I can like picture my dad perfectly like riding in the car with him and him going bitty bitty bum bum. So I
got to
think
admit that it's very catchy.
it
So
is incredibly catchy.
I caught myself humming it after the movie, and I was just just da da da. It just sort of stays in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was a kid, like I liked the music for like the beat, but now I like it more as I got older because I actually like know I learned Spanish in school, so I like know what the songs are about now. And I think that increases the like understanding and appreciation for them. So shout
Okay.
out to AB Quintanilla for his songwriting abilities. Because they're good songs. Like, when I was a kid, I enjoyed Como la Flor, but I didn't know that like Como la Flor is like a sad song.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, I think, just by the tone of the music,
Yeah.
whether, without knowing what the words are meaning. So,
Yeah. It's basically talking about like she's like a flower and
hmm.
she used to like have all of his love, but now like she's wilting.
Oh,
Se
oh,
marchito, like wilting. Me marcho. It's kind of like, I'm going on, but like yo sé perder means like I know how to lose. And then the big long that ay como me duele. That's like, oh how it hurts me. So it's
oh,
basically
oh
like
gosh, it
I
is
loved
sad.
you and I see you with someone new and it
Oh,
hurts
oh,
me.
mm,
So
okay.
that's the kind of, but like Bitty Bitty Bum Bum's the opposite. It's like you see someone, you're into them, and that's sort of supposed to be like your heart. Bitty
Yeah,
Bitty
that's
Bum Bum.
I'd read that. That's yeah, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be like yeah. Although that's I don't think they said that's what the words say, but that's what it's supposed to be. The mimicking of someone's heart
Yeah.
beating a
Because it
little.
says the words that like lead up to the chorus, like
Yeah.
cada vez que lo voy a pasar, like every time I see him walk by, my like heart goes crazy and it starts to like palpitar, like palpitate, starts to beat.
Yeah.
And I'm like going crazy, like no reason. I can't control it. Bitty bitty bum bum. So it's like kind of like, oh my God, like I'm going crazy over this guy. But yeah, so I think that like the music, I think, is part of it. I think I feel similarly about this the way that I did about like Spice World, right? So it's like these sort of female artists that are enduring
Hmm.
and have music that still like resonates with people.
Right.
And I think that is part of the reason why I appreciate it. I think also this is top five Jennifer Lopez role. I mean, breakout role for Jennifer Lopez, right? Like this is this real start of her acting career
Evidently, because
here.
I looked at a little bit of her movie biography, and she had done 5 movies up to this point, but none of them had. I think this was her first starring role,
Yeah.
and and not seeing this before, and but seeing, I do like Jennifer Lopez in their movies and so on. I do.
Mm.
And I wrote down that this was a really good, solid performance. You could see
Mhm.
now, you could see back then. I could see where people say, "Oh, she's going to be, a star,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
she's she's really, she's got whatever it is, that's going to take her to the next level."
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that if you look at, like, reviews when Selena came out, like, her performance is something that people single out as a highlight
Hmm.
of the movie. And I think for me too, like, I didn't really know, Selena had died when this movie came out, so I didn't really know much about her specifically or, like, what
Could,
she looked like. So, like, in my head, like, it was Jennifer Lopez in some ways.
yeah,
Um, and then I'm like, "Okay." I mean, she resembles her well in the movie.
very much so. Yeah, I had really had not a lot of ideas about what Selena
Mhm.
looked like. I, heard some of the music and stuff, but yeah, I mean, very closely resembled her. So
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, the outfits too, like, they recreated all these outfits, like, to the T. Like, if you Google, like, Selena Astrodome performance, she's in that purple,
the
like, that's
that
an iconic
pantsuit
look.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because that's the other thing too, like, people still dress up as Selena for Halloween, right? Like, people are still
yeah.
Selena was only, like, famous for a few years,
That I
right?
was just going to say, considering, I mean, watching this, I mean, her big effect was just, yeah, very short lived as far as her
Mhm.
exposure worldwide. But
Yeah.
my gosh, what an impression! And I have to say, it to me as well. I came away with a very different appreciation for her and her music,
Mhm.
and the impact that she had made. So,
Yeah.
not, I'll be honest with you, this movie, I felt very sad, about it, and you knew what was going to happen and everything, but I felt very sad by the outcome of the movie, and then from the story, and I think also from the performances by the actors, in the roles. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
so
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is just it makes you, like, appreciate Selena, I think, as an
hmm
artist and, like, also feel sad that, like, we didn't get
it,
more from her.
right. She'd only be 50 years old, or 52 or 53 years old right now. And then,
Yeah,
certainly she could still be performing at a very high level, if not
absolutely.
even better. I mean, if you sort of look at Jennifer Lopez, and she was only 2 years older than Selena was when
Mhm.
she did this role. So if you compare the two, certainly she could have been, in that same circle, you know,
Absolutely, absolutely. Perhaps they would've, collaborated, right?
collaborated. Yeah,
Like
exactly. Done, either music or performances, or movies together, or
mhm.
whatever. So yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting too because I think at the time I this movie sort of introduced people outside of the Tejano music scene to
hmm
Selena.
hmm
'Cause I think there were not as many, like, mainstream at least, like, in Maryland, I didn't know any other,
Well,
like,
I lived in
famous,
Maryland at the same time, right? I didn't. There was no big market, I don't think, for,
Latine artists, right? You know what I mean?
right.
Like, like, kind of
What?
the Enrique and Julio Iglesias and, like, people like that, maybe, like, the Estefans, right? And you hear at one point in the
Right.
movie that she's gonna
hmm
be the next Gloria Estefan.
hmm
I think you know of people like that, um, but not as much, like, kind of contemporary at the time of, like, 90s. Like, she was a little before even Enrique Iglesias came out and before, like, Shakira and
hmm
people like Talia, like, people like that, and I think now we have a newer wave too of, like, people like Bad Bunny. Um, I feel like if Selena was around, we could have gotten a great Selena and Bad Bunny, collaboration too.
I'd have paid money to see that, let me tell you. So, yep,
Yeah.
I'd have bought tickets to that
Um,
concert.
for sure. Or like a
Yeah.
Selena and like Cardi B, or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And then, like the J Balvin too, he's Colombian. Like there's a lot more. There's another like wave, I think, of like Latino artists. And I think
Mhm.
that it would be so interesting. Would I don't know, like would the landscape look the same had Selena not been there, and also then what would it look like if
That's a good
Selena was still
question.
here?
Still
So,
here, yeah. I mean,
but
maybe she would have fostered or empowered, maybe even more so. It's hard.
mhm,
It's hard to say. Or
yeah,
um,
yeah. But I think the other thing too that I appreciate about the movie is that it makes her seem just like a cool person. You know what I mean? Just like
hmm
fun and kind of bubbly and like pushing back against her dad when he's trying to be kind of strict, or when he's like, we can't go to Mexico, your Spanish is not good enough, and she's like, I'm gonna be okay, and then she is, right? So
exactly.
things like that, you can't date the guitarist in the band, and she's like, well, dad, this is gonna happen whether you like it
Mhm.
or not, and here we go. So yeah, I think that its portrayal of Selena as a person also, I think, is sort of attracts you to her
Agreed.
in that way. And I think again that also like compounds that sadness that you're left with um
Yeah,
at the end.
the world not only lost a great artist and a great performer, but just a really great human being, a
Mhm.
person who brought a lot of joy, I think, into people's lives, and tried to. That was her. Wasn't to be rich. It wasn't to be famous. It was she enjoyed making people happy, or people enjoying
Mhm.
her performances, her talent.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that even like in the movie when like young Selena, right, when they're performing at like when their parents had a Mexican restaurant
Oh
and they're
gosh,
performing as little kids. They're saying like Blue Moon and stuff as little kids, and the crowd loves it, and she's like, don't you love that? Like, isn't this great?
yeah.
Having this experience. So I guess we can talk a little bit about the movie, the plot, which is basically like Selena's life, and then kind of get into maybe how the movie came about, like after her death.
Okay.
So the movie actually opens long before Selena was born, when her dad, Abraham Quintanilla, was in a group called Los Dinos, but they were discriminated against because they were Mexican, and like white only restaurants and bars and lounges didn't want them to perform, even though they were obviously really good. They were
Yeah,
fine with them over the phone.
right. Or listening to hearing them sing without looking at them.
Yes, but then as soon as they saw them, it's like,
hmm
oh no, sorry,
No,
there was a
sorry.
mistake here.
Yeah, this is for your trouble.
Yes, exactly. And then flash forward, Abraham is now married to Selena's mom, Marcella. They have three kids. Selena's the youngest, so they have Suzette, AB, who's like he's like Abraham the third. They call him AB, and then Selena. And they live in Corpus Christi, Texas. And he decides at some point to get the kids in a band. We see him like playing guitar, and then Selena comes and sings with him. She like
hmm
harmonizes with him, and he's like, "Oh, the light
Yeah.
bulb, the light bulb has gone off. My dream didn't come true, but I'm about to make it happen."
Well, and I made a notation too. Dad recognized her talent, but was he trying to live his dream through her?
Yeah.
And it sort of reminded me, or maybe think of some other showbiz dads. Uh, Michael Jackson's dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People like that who maybe didn't have the talent, didn't have the whatever it took to get there, but then I'm going to realize my dream through my children.
Yeah. And
I,
clearly, like at first, at least that's what it was, right? Because he bought all these instruments
oh
and he's
gosh,
like,
and
kids, you're practicing. And all of them were
yeah.
like, no, I want to go outside and play. And they sounded like garbage at first.
Oh,
Like,
the one the sister, like you said,
oh, yeah.
what girl plays drums? And I want to say Karen Carpenter.
Yes. He should have told them that.
I
They like,
know
I'm sure
he
they knew
should
who
have
the
known
Carpenters
that.
were. They were like, we like, and also the other thing was he kept making them play like doo
The
wop.
doo
And they were
wop
like, we
and
like the Eagles, dad.
by the way, made a note, my favorite band of all time. And then I thought, oh, Selena loved the
Mhm.
Eagles. Yay.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Also, if they knew who the Eagles were, I'm sure they knew who the Carpenters were. They could have said, Susie, you're like Karen Carpenter.
Karen Carpenter. Yes. You play the drums
There
and
you
play it
go.
well. Yes.
But yeah, so he sort of forces them into being a band, but I think eventually they come around to it once they kind of
Yeah.
get it together. The family starts a Mexican restaurant. They're playing there. They're getting attention. And then they start doing like the sort of like county fair circuit. And it's not always going great because they're playing these like doo-wop standards and they're not playing Tejano music. They're not playing like
The stuff
Mexican
people wanna
music.
dance to, or what
Right.
the yeah, what they want,
Right. And
the
you're
audience.
playing to like Mexican American crowds in South
Mhm.
Texas. They want that music. They want something upbeat that they can dance to, and that's not what they're playing.
Right.
So this is when it's like, Selena, you got to learn to sing in Spanish. She's like, I
Mhm.
don't know how to sing in Spanish. She can't even like roll her
She goes,
R's
"I
at
don't even
this
know how to
point.
speak Spanish."
Right.
So,
The like reloj. Um, that one, he was like reloj, like the thing
which I
about like
cannot do, but,
reloj, the clock counting the
yeah,
hours,
yeah,
and it like doesn't really translate to English.
translate, yeah.
But
The
yeah, so
world's
they,
crazy because the clock's counting hours, or
yeah,
or I'm crazy because the clock's counting
I can't, yeah, the clock's counting the hours and I'm going crazy.
something, so
Enloquecer or something. It's gonna make me go crazy or something like that. But yeah, so um the other thing is the family also comes on like harder financial times, right? Because Abraham had a steady job. He ended up quitting it when they opened the restaurant, even though he assured Marcella that he
it
was not gonna quit his job.
is he like the stereotypical guy, though, who's like, the I got this great idea,
Yes, the next
and
big thing.
the next big, and I wrote it was like, I we're going to be fine, we're going to do this, and
Hmm.
I'm going to do that, and I won't do this, and then lo and behold, it's like, everything falls apart, unfortunately. So I did
Yeah.
notice it didn't seem like they had a lot of stuff in that trailer when they moved out of the house, by the way.
No, they probably had to sell it. And it was
I guess. So I thought about that. I thought,
it
man,
was
three
Ronald
kids,
Reagan's fault. I want to note
Reaganomics,
he was name checked. It was Ronald Reagan's fault, as with
Reaganomics.
many things in the world.
Wrote
Um,
it down. Reagan. I remember, and I remember those days, by the way.
I,
So
I don't, but
I was a working stiff at the time, so
yeah,
and for the federal government, so
yeah.
I was one of the minions.
I
So
do feel like these days, whenever I'm like, this is a weird regulation, why does it exist? Or this is a stupid rule, then I look and I'm like, oh,
oh,
Ronald Reagan.
exactly.
That's why it
So
exists.
there you go. Now you're cooking with gas.
But yeah, so they sort of, even as kids kind of hit a crossroads, they're struggling
Hmm.
financially. This is sort of, maybe trying to make money for the family.
Sure.
They're like, okay, we gotta shift to like some more upbeat music. Marcella, the mom, teaches Selena how to cumbia. So
Hmm.
they have a little more oomph in their dancing. And then it cuts to she's older. She's like a teenager.
Right.
Now and they're singing Baila esta cumbia, which is another song that I enjoy. That song is truly just about dancing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, because Baila esta cumbia, it's dance this cumbia.
Oh, okay.
And like the lyrics are like move your hips and like put your hands up and like yell crazy. And then they do the hey, hey, hey,
What
hey.
did Abraham call it? What was it? Something, the dishwasher, or
Oh, the
the
washing
the
machine.
washing
Yeah.
machine?
The
Yeah.
washing
So
machine dance move.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like that.
yeah.
That's basically
So
what the song is about. Um, but this is also the first like hint we get of rebellious Selena too, because she's got a
oh my
buttoned up
gosh,
jean jacket on, but then she takes it off and she's got what is essentially a bedazzled bra. She calls it a bustier, and
it,
that part is funny though. Like,
it's yeah. So even I know enough. I'm sitting there thinking, if I were her dad, I would be the same thing. Why is she wearing a bra on
yes,
stage? So
when he's like, "Es un bra, a bustiquela es un bra." That part cracks me up. What is she
yeah.
wearing? That's a bra. But that's always, I think that sort of gives you the character of their relationship too, right? She's the youngest, she's the little girl, but she's gonna push the boundaries,
Sure.
and mom is on her side, right? Like, mom helped me sew it.
Mom helped me make it, and then he looks at his wife like, "How dare you? Like, what have you done to our daughter?" So,
Yeah, yeah, but I think you get a sense too of like it seemed like they were very close
oh yeah,
also,
yeah. So,
Selena and her dad.
hmm.
I mean, like mom too. I mean, their whole family, obviously, right? Because they're this family band. They're touring together. They're together like 24/7. But obviously, Selena and her dad. And I think part of it is because like her dad really sees her potential.
I
Like,
think, yeah, I think in the beginning, maybe it was just, oh, I'm going to teach my daughter to sing or whatever. But there was that glimmer. And then, yes, I think later on, he understood and realized she's going to be big. She's going to be much bigger than any of us thought, or
mhm.
although he probably had an idea of where she could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. I think
And
from the beginning, like you said, it was like his dream a little bit, but then he's like, okay, like she's got it. She can
yeah,
go. And you can tell too, because right, he named their band after his band. He
right.
was in Los Dinos and then they
Let's,
became Selena y Los Dinos.
um, I wrote a note though. I wondered, would she have succeeded, or would she have eventually, without his pushing, without that drive behind, what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, she was talented. Yes, she, and had the potential and everything. But does a person like that, do most of them need someone, then to push them a little beyond their comfort level, or to get to them into that track where they realize, oh, I could go very far, along this way. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just curious, just
I could see that because I do think that like, they did all this touring and like building an audience and building skills and all of this stuff that may not have happened without that. I think the same thing about like Beyonce also had a dad that like
mm-hmm,
pushed her a lot.
mm-hmm.
And like would Beyonce be
Well,
obviously like I
well,
think Beyonce
it,
fans have feelings about her dad. But
right.
would she be
Well, would the Jacksons have been, the Jackson Five, or Michael, or even Janet, without their dad, pushing
Mhm.
them at the very beginning. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to all, I think even taking it out of music, I thought also of Serena and Venus Williams with
Mhm. Mhm.
Richard, without that push, that no, we're going to learn this, we're going to do this, you're going to, because as a young kid, it's very very few that will sit there and do it on their own. It's
Yeah.
like, unless someone says, no, you're going to practice for what, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the other thing too, all the people that we're talking about, they also needed someone to advocate for them because these are
mhm,
all like little kids of color that I think, right? Like
I
there's a
I
part
agree. Yep.
after Selena performs Bailes de Cumbia at the fair, the guy gives them less money than they agreed upon.
Mhm.
And Abraham's like, "What is this?" And he's like, "She's just a woman."
Mhm.
Right? So he's like, "No, no, no. Like
Yeah. Just that. Yeah.
we're
We're
not
not.
we're
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 not.
done with you then." Like
mm,
I think that's the same thing with like Richard Williams, right? He's going up to people and saying, "You need to like let my daughters in here.
Yeah.
You want to coach my daughters, right? You want to train
Exactly.
them." And so I think it's not just like pushing the kid too, it's like pushing the creating the space for that to like for them to be showcased
That's a
too.
great
Like to
point.
push other people to make sure that like they let them in the door kind of thing.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. That's a great point to not only make the child or whatever realize their potential, but other people to realize their
Mhm.
potential. Yeah,
Mhm.
that you need, you can either get on the train or you can get out of the way.
Yeah.
So more or less. So
Yeah, for sure. So, not long after that performance, we get one of I think the most iconic parts in the movie, one of the most iconic lines. So, they have to take the bus. The kids, so like Selena, AB, Suzette, have to take the bus to get gas, and they run it off the road. And then two
poor AB.
poor AB, he really is like
He's like, yeah, it's like everything gets blamed on AB.
I know.
So
At least Selena went with him because otherwise this situation would not have turned out as good. Um, so if you have not seen this movie, which it came out in 1997, you should have. Also, nothing we're saying is a spoiler because it all happened in history in real life. So
right,
get with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It is not a spoiler that Selena died. It is just historical fact at this point.
Wait, I
Um,
didn't finish the movie. What?
ooh. uh, they're stuck, and then this car comes up, this convertible with these two like big cholos. So they're like guys, usually like Californian Mexican, like kind of gangster guys. You recognize them by like the Dickies, the wife beater, and like a plaid shirt. Usually, I feel like is the
Mm-hmm.
uniform.
Yep.
So they're there, and they were like, they know Selena and they love her, but they call her Salinas. Like anything for Salinas. they try to tow a bus. They're in like a regular car and they try to tow the bus out of the ditch. It rips their bumper off. And the guy's like, I'm gonna hang this on my wall, man. I'm gonna say this this got pulled off by the bus of Selena. Salinas.
Well, it was funny because yeah, because AB, I guess, thought that they were going to beat their ass,
Yeah, he's like, oh
for
my
wrecking their
God,
car. Yeah, he goes,
we'll pay you.
yeah, we'll pay you. No, you kidding? He goes, yeah. He goes, this is great. This is like the best souvenir of my life. So
Right. They end up giving them a ride. That part was funny too when they call the dad and they're like, I know exactly what he's gonna say. He's gonna be like, what are you doing? What did you say? And then he says exactly that.
I know
Um,
it's like line for line.
yeah.
She knew her dad so well.
hmm
So
And then they're all teasing Selena. They keep going, anything for Salinas. That I think is one of, if you've seen this movie, like that's the line, right? Like I mentioned it to friends the other day that we were going to
yeah.
talk about this movie, and that's the first thing. Anything for Salinas is like the first thing out of people's mouths when you mention this movie. So I think but I think that shows like that the star was rising, right?
Exactly. Yeah. She, even then they knew these two guys, who they had no idea who they were, who the two guys were, but
Mhm.
they knew who she was,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And obviously at this point, she's kind of like, they're touring like fairs, right? Like it's
Right. It's
not,
still not like a big,
yeah. They're not in arenas or
yeah, I
anything,
was going to
right?
say, and then they're not, being, played all over, the United
hmm
States or anything. I mean,
Yeah.
and that was one of my questions, and maybe were they mostly still in Texas at this time, down in Texas, and then over into Mexico?
I think that I think they were in California at that point. So
Oh,
I think
oh,
it was probably Southwest.
okay,
There is a lot where there would be a lot of Mexican American
yeah,
audiences
okay,
is
all
where they
right,
were concentrated primarily. So
gotcha,
probably like Texas, New Mexico, Arizona into Southern California, I would
okay,
imagine. Because I think that they were in California when that happened.
okay,
Sort of next major milestone is Chris Perez.
mm,
So this is the person who eventually became Selena's husband. Flash forward, spoiler. But he at first joined their band as a guitarist. So AB knew of him because he was like a rock guitarist. He's very like heavy metal. When we meet him, he's got like long matted hair and he's doing like metal riffs, like it sounds like sort of Slash solos from Guns
very
N'
much so, yeah.
Roses.
So,
And they're intrigued, but they hire him. Abraham is clearly like, I don't know about this. This is not the look we're going for, but they're like, clean him up to the girls, clean him up. So
uh, they couldn't have taken him to a barber shop.
they did a very bad job
I was
cutting
going to
his
say
hair.
it was like my God, I felt so bad for him. I would have said,
I know.
you know what? I don't think I want this
Also,
job."
there's no way that the cut they gave him resulted in the look that they ended
No,
up with
no.
because they were like hacking. There were very short pieces of hair.
The scissors they used were like gardening shears or something. It
It was the
wasn't.
same scissors they used to cut off his bracelets.
Yeah,
And they cut his hair
and
with
what was
them.
that all about? Those things
I
can't
know,
come off
take
on
them
their
off.
own.
Let him take
Yeah,
off the bracelets.
dude.
I guess it was for the drama.
I
But
guess so.
so yeah, he gets his all of his rock and roll bracelets cut off. He gets a haircut. He does look much better. He has like a nice his hair's still long, but it's in a ponytail and like kind of slicked back and clearly Selena thinks he's hot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We see
That little
the
moment was very funny when
yeah.
her sister is like, Selena, come look. And she's like, oh, you look good. And when like she steps out of his eyesight, she's like, oh my God.
Little trivia about the guitar playing, by the way. I read this. Did you read about
Yes.
that?
That
It
it
was
was
really
him.
it was
Yeah.
him. They got a close up. They kind of tricked him into playing the riff
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
filmed it.
Yeah.
So
So it was Chris Perez who Chris
evidently
was
he was
trying to,
very talented.
yeah, yeah. He was because the actor John Seda, and we can talk about the cast too a little bit later,
Hmm.
but he like was learning to play guitar, but like he
Did not
knew he could not be at that level. So he
right,
sort of convinced, he was like, hey, can you like show me how to do this?
right, exactly.
And I
Show
was
me
like,
what that
zoom in
looks
on his
like.
hands, zoom in on
Hmm.
his hands.
Yeah. So yeah.
So if you see the hands playing that riff in that scene, it is the real Chris Perez, and not the actor John Seda. Clearly, as they're they're touring. Clearly, Selena and Chris are like developing a relationship. They have a friendship, but they're clearly like they have a crush on each other. Also, I wrote a note in all caps, the mullets. The mullets in this
Mm,
movie. One of the
mm.
guys in the band has a really serious mullet. And in the audience, I mean, this is like early 90s, so like I
I
get it.
was curious, Lindsay, this was the era of the mullet,
I
so
know.
just
This
saying,
is
so
Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky
oh,
Heart.
oh, 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 yeah, so, yeah,
But the guy in the
business in
band,
front, party in the back.
had his hair was long
It
in the
wa
back.
it was I made a note of that. I thought,
Like he had the
"Dude."
spiky hair. It was long. It was longer than Selena's hair was at any
Oh,
point in the
yeah,
movie.
and I don't know if that was a hairpiece or if that was his own hair, but it was impressive, so
It
just
was.
saying.
I don't know. At least one of the guys in the band was played by the real guy.
Oh, okay,
I
I
don't
did
know
not know
which one
that.
he was, but
Oh,
there's
okay.
a guy named Pete who, like, he is the real guy
The
that
real
was in the
guy that
band.
was in Selena's band,
He is the real Dino of Los Dinos.
Los Dinos? Okay.
But yeah, so this is also again the success is building. Como la Flor is number one on Tejano radio. They hear it at like a
They're at,
um
they stop at a
they're
like, a
like a little
marketplace.
roadside like
Yeah.
fruit stand, food
Mhm.
stand thing. And then Suzette, the sister who plays drums, she hears it. She's like, "We're not." And it's a nice moment of like them all like, oh,
It is, yeah, so and
that's
jumping
always a
around and
fun moment in like any music movie when they like
yeah,
the
they
people are like,
realize
"We made it." That kind
yeah.
of moment. It reminds me of, do you know the movie That Thing You Do?
Oh, yeah, uh-huh, the Tom
Like
Hanks movie?
moment when they're like they all like meet, they're all
Yeah,
driving through town and they all meet at like the at guy's parents store and they turn on all the radios to their
right,
song
to
playing,
hear
so
that,
it's
yeah, that thing that you do, so
yeah, so that is definitely, we're going to talk about that movie at some point too because
oh,
that's
okay, alright.
one of my favorites. But yeah, so they're at peak stardom and she has been invited to perform in Mexico, and her
Mm,
dad is like, no, we can't go. They're going to expect you to speak Spanish. You cannot. She's like, I can sing in Spanish, but he's like, you can't like speak it well enough. And it's sort of like we're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans, we're not American enough for the Americans. And this is another moment where you can see like they've heard this speech a few
but
times from dad,
I
Selena and
thought
AB
this
are like da 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 da.
but I thought this was very moving because he did speak about and I think really, to me, it's sort of not really thinking about what he had to face, as a
Mm-hmm.
young, Mexican American, and I think he made a very good point that he wasn't Mexican enough and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't white enough, so he couldn't
Yeah.
satisfy anybody,
Right.
and
Right.
like you said, he had to be twice as American as a regular American, or twice as white, and he had to be twice as Mexican, and
Yeah.
that was what was expected.
But I think that speaks to like the sort of like immigrant experience, right? Of like
Sure,
you can't really fit in here, but then you have a sort of a different life than the people back home, and
right,
um
yeah,
so like where do you fit?
yeah,
But
and how do you make your way you know in a country where yeah you're not accepted by your own people, and you're not accepted by the
mhm,
people that you're trying to get along with, so and for her, you, like you said, you can say that, they've heard this speech before, but you could really, I think, in his delivery of it, how
mhm.
impassioned he was about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is a moment too where like her, he has big dreams for Selena, but she also has a vision for herself.
Hmm.
And she's like, "No, like I can do it. I
Yeah.
know that
Hmm.
I know that I'll be okay."
Yeah.
So even, the child kind of surpasses the ambitions of the parent, even though this sort of started out as his whole concoction. And sometimes I think that that's like that sort of childlike, like you don't like know your limits, so you kind of are like, okay, I can do it.
Right. Yeah.
There's this sort of like confidence and optimism that you have
You've not
because
run
you're
into
not like
that.
jaded by
Yeah.
stuff.
You've not
Um,
had that failure, or
yeah.
that wall thrown up yet, or been told no,
Hmm.
like her dad had been,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely. So, but one more wrinkle before we go to Mexico, and that is Chris is hanging out with his rocker buddies who destroy his hotel room. And that part always kills me because I'm like, why are you just sitting there plucking your guitar strings while your friends are trashing this
trashing the
room?
room. Yeah, it's like you can't
Tell
speak
them
up.
to stop. Tell
Yeah.
them to get out. Like, so Abraham is livid, kicks him out. And Selena's mad too. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And
Your
he's like,
rocker buddies, that's what you do, trash hotel rooms.
"Right." She's like, this is not like who you are." And he's like, "Oh, I'm like a bad guy. You shouldn't be with me." And she's like, "But I care about you, and like you can't
Mhm.
like tell me what I need. Everybody's always trying, my dad's trying to tell me what to do. Like you can't also join the line of people telling me what to do. So get yourself together." But he's still in the band. AB convinces Abraham, he's like, "Listen, we're about to go to Mexico and we can't find another guitarist. So actually he's not fired. We need him. He's a really good guitarist. He'll like, we won't let him, we'll keep him in
Right.
line.
Yeah.
But like, we do kind of need a guitarist. So
Yeah, yeah, we can't
yes,
let him go just yet, Dad. We need
we
him.
we can't fire him right now."
Right.
But yeah, so I also wrote a note. I think J.Lo looks very pretty in this movie. Obviously, she's like a beautiful person generally, but like we don't see her as much with like dark hair in real life
No,
anymore.
yeah, you're no,
Um,
it's
but the
it
Selena look, the dark hair, the
mhm,
dark eyebrows, and the red
really
lip, it
suits her,
does
yeah.
she does look really nice.
Yeah, she does. Uh-huh.
All the time, even when she's yelling at Chris, I'm like, oh, she looks really pretty. Um, but so they go to Monterrey, in Mexico, and they're all nervous as she's going to have her first press conference there. They're like, "Oh my
Mhm.
God, she doesn't know enough Spanish." Abraham's like, "I will do all the talking. You don't." She's like, "No, I got it." And she answers like the first question in Spanish, but then she runs out pretty quickly, right? She's trying to, me siento muy excited. That's another one I use. Um, I was talking to someone recently about like practicing my Spanish listening to Selena, and she was like, "Selena didn't know that much Spanish either." And I was like, "You're right." And I said, "Me siento muy excited." Uh,
But she did sort of pave the way. I thought that when
mhm,
she went up and she said, "Oh, like said hello to everybody,"
mhm,
in a little bit of Spanish, but it gave him the kiss, and so on and so forth.
mhm.
And it was like, I think she had him like eating out of her hand anyway before she even said one word in front of the
Yeah.
microphone. So,
Clearly, she's very like endearing. They just
ex-
love her. She's like a
yeah.
magnetic person.
I mean, look at her. I mean,
Right.
she's sweet, she's kind, she's beautiful, she's talented. So,
Yeah. So
yeah. So,
clearly, like everybody was fine, right? Like when she says "Me siento muy excited," everybody's
yeah.
like, "Ha ha ha
Oh,
ha
they
ha!"
all
Right?
just laugh. Yeah.
They all
So it's
loved
like,
it.
yeah.
And then
So,
it comes time for the concert. It was supposed to be like 10,000 people, and there's like 100,000 people there, which
and
is crazy.
yeah, and the promoter, I guess, was freaking out, and he had no idea,
Which
so
seems like you dropped the ball, sir. Like,
exactly. I was going to say he's like yelling at Abraham, and Abraham's, look, you're the one that's supposed to be,
right. You need to
head of,
call more cops then.
yeah, you need to get better security or whatever. So
Right. Yeah.
and
And you can see very quickly that's a problem. So they start
mhm.
performing, and then the crowd starts pushing.
And they're
And the
performing on a
stage,
rinky dink
it is not a
stage.
very nice stage.
I've
No.
seen stages like that in high school, for God's sakes,
Right. Right. I could build that in my backyard. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, the stage they're as they're pushing, the stage is starting to buckle. So they have to
Hmm.
like flee the stage really quickly. But then the crowd is really upset because they obviously came to watch Selena.
Well, and then one lady gets like sort of sucked underneath the stage, and
Yeah,
then
they
they
have to
they
like
do get her out.
rescue
So
her. Like Abraham is out there rescuing
I
her.
I
Again,
I,
where
I
is
know
the staff?
yeah.
So, anyways, and he's like, "Selena, like, do you think that you can like gain control of the crowd,
Hmm.
basically?" And she's like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
okay." So she goes out, and this is like a live version of Como la Flor that I have heard a lot. Maybe
Hmm.
because I watched this movie so many times. But she goes out and she kind of starts, she basically tells the band, like, we're gonna start Como la Flor, we're gonna start it slow and like build up.
Hmm.
So this is, I think, if you're familiar with Selena, you've probably heard this version. It's like a very slow, like, Como la Flor, pause. Con tanto amor, pause. And then right before the ay, como me duele, that's when she like blows a little kiss, does a little
Hmm.
wave. The crowd loves it. And then she
Shushes them. Yeah.
pushes them and they all
You could
quiet
hear a
down.
pin drop. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she goes to the like, ay. She does like the really deep ay, como me duele. Like And then they pick up the do, you know,
And
and
she's
into the
got a
song.
meeting out of her
And
hand.
it's great and it's good.
Yes.
It's like she just has like control,
Hmm. She could tell them to
such
go all jump
control.
off a cliff and they'd all go. So
Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
Like she had just like perfect
she's
control.
yeah, she very magnetic, very, very charismatic, person. So
Yeah. And my like brain is jumping around, but this it reminded me of which I saw recently. I think it came up again. This is like a completely different artist, but it's a similar situation. Tracy Chapman. There's a video that went around after she like came back at the Grammys.
hmm,
There's
hmm,
a video of her, back when Fast Car came out, playing at Wembley Stadium at a big festival. And it was like someone had like backed out or something. So the
hmm,
crowd's going crazy. And it's a huge crowd and it's just her and an acoustic guitar. And she goes out and plays Fast Car and it's like hush over the crowd
cool.
for them all to like lean in and listen to her playing Fast Car. And I think it's like a similar vibe, right? That you can
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
even if you're not like being like loud, if you're an artist with that kind of presence
Hmm.
that people are like
Yep.
sucked in, they'll quiet down for you.
Yeah,
So,
they're hanging on your every word, your what's going to come next out of her mouth.
right.
So,
Just like the power of like your presence and your voice and like your just like star
hmm,
power, just
hmm,
like
yeah.
pulling people in. So this also is then when Abraham sees that Selena and Chris are in love and he's like, no, no, no.
Oh, yeah.
End this.
Gets lit
And
up,
they're like, no.
and then
Um,
goes into the bad dad act.
yes.
I wrote bad dad act. It's
Yes.
or yeah.
Chris, you're fired. If you try to see him, I'm gonna disband the group.
Mhm. Yep.
And then
We'll end up washing dishes or something, but we
yeah,
ain't having this. So
no. And she like wants to be with him. She wants to get married. She's telling her mom. And this is something that I thought about. The mom is like, just wait a few years. But like she doesn't, I mean, we know watching it, she doesn't have a few years.
right,
Or she
but
only has a few years, Like they got married in 92 and she's killed in 95. So like she doesn't have a few years to wait. I mean, obviously
no,
you don't know that at the time, but we do watching it. And I think it makes that line like, oof, but she
yeah.
can't.
You,
Marcella, she can't.
well, maybe that's a lesson for a lot of us is don't put off today. Don't put off till tomorrow what, sometimes, what your heart feels or,
Yeah. Yeah. I will say I'm generally like, please don't get married at age 20, but I guess at some point it's like, whatever,
yeah.
YOLO.
And she knew evidently,
Yeah. And I mean,
Selena.
also her at 20, like she's been touring since she was like 7. So like I
Yeah,
think her 20 is not necessarily everybody's 20.
that's a you know what, you bring up a good point. I mean, she lived an entirely different life than,
Yeah.
most preteens, teenagers, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
She traveled a lot and been
Hmm.
performing and basically been paying the family's way for,
Yeah.
a few years anyway. Not
Yeah.
maybe not the main source of income, but
Hmm.
a big part of it.
Yeah. And I mean, in some ways, she was more sheltered than your average 20-year-old, but in some ways, she was a lot more worldly than your average 20-year-old.
Exactly.
So
So,
what can you do? And I think we get a sense of her kind of like the YOLO attitude.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean when I say YOLO?
You only live once.
Yes. Okay. Just want to make sure.
That's okay.
Um,
That's fine. So yeah,
um,
I appreciate you.
she does her little bungee jumping thing at the fair, which like
Oh
that's
my
really
God.
taking your life into your hands at the fair.
I
I'm not
know,
bungee
really.
jumping at the fair.
No, not like some dude. Yeah, like it's probably wrapped up with
No.
duct tape and
Right? They
and
put that on
baling
a
the.
Mack truck and drive to the next town. Like,
Yeah, it's like
no.
yeah, and usually the guy that's well, you see the guy that's running, and it's like some dude.
Yeah.
He's
He's like,
yeah,
don't
there
look
you'll
down or you're not gonna do it.
yeah, and so I guess prophetic words, yeah, or
Yeah.
you just let go. That's what
Yeah.
you just have to let go.
And then kind of the next scene, she's like, well, let's just get married.
Yeah,
That's the
and
only way that my dad's gonna accept this if he knows I'm serious. So like, let's get married. And of course they get scooped. They're gonna go
mm,
tell the
yeah,
family.
who leaks the?
Somebody at the courthouse.
I reckon
Yeah,
But
someone at the courthouse is spilling the beans to
I mean,
the
it's on the radio while they're in the hotel
They were
room or whatever.
quick. Yeah, they were in the
Yeah.
car on the way to Selena's family. I'm like,
Oh, that's what it
"Gosh,
was. Yeah, they were
this
on the
is like this is
yeah.
before, like, cell phones and TMZ, but they
I
were on
know.
it."
Yeah, dude.
They were on it. So she's like, "Oh, no, we gotta give him a day."
Yeah.
And it turns out that that's the right decision, because when they do go back the next day, he's like, "Yesterday, I
Yeah,
was pissed."
yeah. I'd have killed him.
Yeah.
So,
But today, I, like, get it. I understand. Everything's fine. He's like,
yeah, he's
"Welcome
pretty
to the
chill
family."
about it, don't
He
you
is,
think?
and he really truly just, like, needed a day, I guess,
I
to, like,
guess,
let the storm blow over. What's
or
funny is that Abraham Quintanilla did not want that scene. He didn't want the elopement in the movie
oh, I didn't know that. Did they say why?
because he said that it was, like, a bad example to, like, kids to, like, go elope,
To
and
for
the
them to go
writer
run out
Yeah.
and go get married?
Yeah, but the writer-director, I think he was like, "This makes" I think he probably had to frame it to him like, "This makes you look good because you, like, come around."
Yeah, I mean, it
Um
to me, it did. It showed that he was very understanding and that he was, willing to listen to her heart.
Yeah, and I think that underscores their closeness, that, like, even when they butt heads, they still can, like, come back together, and I think it shows, like, that Selena's kind of, like, headstrong.
Mhm.
She's gonna do her thing. She was an Aries, which is, you're an Aries also. That's, like,
Mm.
that's an Aries thing. It's a fire sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac, right? So there is this level of, like, I'm gonna go start things and do what I want. I don't know if
We
you relate to it, but that felt like
no,
a very Aries trait
yeah,
to me.
not so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
gee, where did I go wrong?
Well,
So,
we'll have to talk about we'll have to figure out the rest of your chart sometime, but her
I'm
behavior felt very
oh, okay.
Aries to me
I'm
in
up
that
for that.
moment. So, they're married, it's great, everybody's happy. They go play a gig in San Antonio, we get a little Riverwalk cameo,
Yeah.
there, they're on the Riverwalk. Then we get a lovely montage
I
of
even wrote that down.
performances.
Great montage of the
Which is
concerts and
so good because it first of all, it's the music, right? We get Bitty Bitty Bom Bom, iconic bop, just
um,
great song, super
yep,
catchy.
uh, terrific. The costumes were
The
all,
outfits.
outfits
And,
were
like, these are Selena outfits. Like, they're her like, if you Google, like, Selena in, like, the
uh,
red bustier, like, you will see, like, that outfit. They recreated them. Like, I was reading, the family was, like it made the family, like, emotional to see these outfits recreated. So they were like, did you all take her costumes?" And they didn't. They
they
just
thought they
recreated
oh,
them
okay.
so
So,
well.
but a little thing. So she had a clothing line, right? Or ended up with a clothing line. So did she sell
Yes.
uh, just regular clothes, like like for young women and stuff, for like trendy stuff for them to wear, like to go out and stuff, or just to wear everyday fashion.
That's what it seemed like when they have the fashion show
Yeah, that's what I
part.
thought.
It
Yeah,
seemed
sort of
like
look
it was, like, not necessarily, like, her stage wear, but it does seem
right.
like she designed some of that too, because you see her early, like, doing
Yeah,
the cow print outfits, like, she
I like
designed
that. Yeah,
those.
we're
Mhm.
again, what could have been.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Mhm.
all the other big people have, their own clothing lines.
Mhm.
Jennifer, J.Lo does, and
Yeah, and, like,
you
Gwen
know,
Stefani and,
yeah,
like
all of them, that, where they're whether or not that, I'm sure it probably would have spread it a lot in popularity
mhm,
had she lived. So,
for sure. So, yeah, it looked like her clothing line was maybe not, like, full stage wear, but, like, inspired by her that
yeah,
style with, like,
because
the
some of it looked a
bustiers and, like,
little, I won't say drab, but, not as
more casual.
yeah, more casual. So maybe more mainstream, a little bit more
Yeah.
mainstream. So,
Yeah, so she at this point, she's at, like, sort of peak success. She's nominated for a Grammy.
yeah.
They wanna record an English language album for her to cross over.
Hmm.
She's started her boutiques, and this is when we meet Yolanda Saldivar.
And I even wrote, I mean, we're almost 2/3 or 3/4 of the way into the movie before we meet, one of the
Mhm.
main characters in her story,
Yeah.
and so which I, I guess maybe that they wanted to celebrate her life
Yeah.
as opposed to, so because, you know, as opposed to dwell on
Yeah.
the ending. So,
And that's what the writer-director said,
oh,
that he
okay.
wanted to celebrate her life. And that's why you see, like, when we get to the end, you don't actually see her being
Right.
shot, right? You see
Hmm.
the aftermath. But
Yeah.
one thing I thought was interesting about the actress that they picked to play Yolanda, like Yolanda Saldivar was like, she was older than Selena, but she was like 10 years older than Selena. And they
Well, this
picked
woman looked like she was like 50 years old.
Lupe Ontiveros is like way older than Jennifer
Well,
Lopez. Like,
just no disrespect to the actress, but she's no longer with us. So
yes. So
yeah, she
yeah,
passed
she
away.
was like elder, like the other things I had seen her in, she's playing like grandparents,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So like I'm like, why did they cast this
I don't.
person to play? I thought that was like in my mind, that's what Yolanda, but then I like when I'm older, I looked up Yolanda Saldivar and I'm like, she's not that old.
No, no.
She
Yeah,
still doesn't look that old, like
no, not even. Yeah, because
20
she's
something years later. Like,
yeah. So yeah, 25 years. 20.
yeah,
Yeah,
closer to 30 at this point because it was
close to it.
95.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Next year will
yeah,
be 30 years. I'm sure there'll be something happening too then. But yeah, so we meet Yolanda Saldivar. She seems like sweet. She loves Selena. She's the head of her fan club, etc. Um I also love the next moment when so Selena goes to also Yolanda is inserting herself into
yeah.
additional business, right? We see this
Hmm.
now. Selena's pampering her. Selena's taking care of her. She's like, "Oh, let me do the inventory. I'll do the inventory." Da da da.
Hmm. And you sort of see the wheels turning, don't you?
Yeah.
At least I did. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
this is like,
She's like, "Oh yeah, like I'll do that. I'll do that."
uh-huh. Yeah, I know where
Um,
everything is. I'll
mhm.
take care of
So
that.
we get some suspicion. But anyways, flash forward, Selena invites one of her friends who like works for her to come to LA for the Grammys. They get a nice Pretty Woman moment, which I love. I
I
saw this movie before I'd ever seen Pretty Woman. So like for
oh,
me,
oh,
this
the
was like the
precursor to
moment.
I
This
got you.
was
So
I didn't
the,
have the big mistake huge. Like
yeah,
that
because
didn't live in my brain. This lived in my brain. Like, man, we won't need the dress.
so
Like that.
yeah, and I even wrote that down. Pretty woman moment.
Yeah.
Shopping. So that
Yeah. So
but
basically they're trying to buy the friend a dress and they're at the mall at the Beverly Center and the ladies at like Macy's or whatever won't let her try on a dress.
I know it was like it wasn't even like an exclusive boutique or
Right. I'm like,
anything.
she's at like
It's
Penny's.
yeah.
She's at like
So
Macy's. And then but then like one of the delivery guys is like, "Oh my God, it's Selena." And then like the store
oh, and
fills with people to come get her autograph. And she's like, "Miss, we don't need the dress."
yeah,
Oh,
and
but
they
the one
go,
of the ladies is like, "Who is Selena?"
yeah, you
And
don't
they're
know.
like, "She's here for the Grammys." And then
Yeah,
they're like, "Ooh," you could see this the women
yeah,
that work in the shop are like, "Oh, we messed
big
up."
mistake, big mistake,
Like huge.
huge. So
It's the same like that tone of scene for sure.
yes, oh yeah.
And then she wins the Grammy, which was great, a lovely moment. And again, that I think is a pretty accurate look
Hmm.
to the
Oh, to the actual presentation.
yeah. So she won Best Mexican American Album. So that was the 1994 Grammy Awards. And that
Do
was
they
the
still give
first.
that out at Grammys?
It might be one of the ones that they don't air.
Air.
Because they
Okay.
do a lot, they have a lot that they don't air. They have like Latin American albums. I don't know if they have a specific Mexican American album. I
I
think
don't
maybe they
either.
have Latin American.
Maybe it changed to that or
Yeah. Because
okay.
I don't know that they still do specifically Mexican American,
I'm not.
but um but yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of that since then. But this is also in 1994. That was when she won the Grammy. She also released another Spanish language album called Amor
Oh,
Prohibido, which is another of my favorite songs of hers. Amor
so
Prohibido.
so of so how many albums had she released before she died?
Well, there's Selena y Los Dinos albums from the 80s. There were 6 of those. Just Selena albums. She released 4 before she died, and then the English language album came out posthumously.
Okay, they had finished recording that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Or at least, they had enough, I guess, to
release
put
the
it out.
album.
So, because you see her, that's one of the next scenes is she's recording the song
Right.
I Could Fall in Love with You, which is another good song. And I think such like that felt like such a 90s,
Mm-hmm.
like, you
The
know what I mean?
lyrics
Like
and yeah.
that tone, it felt in like Celine Dion meets like Tony Braxton. It felt in like the pop R&B,
Mm-hmm.
like such a good contemporary like pop song.
Agreed.
Which again, it's like, what else could there have been?
Oh, I
She
know.
also has a fashion show. This also is when we get another hint of Yolanda's villainy.
Mm-hmm.
All the women that work for Selena want to chip in to buy her a gift. And Yolanda says, "Oh, I know something she'll like, so I can take it and buy it and tell her it's from everybody." And the ladies are like, "Oh, thanks so much, Yolanda." She gives her a ring and says, "I bought this for you."
Mm-hmm.
I
And
was like, "You little sneak.
well,
You liar."
and the lady said, like, Yolanda, would you like to chip in? And she goes,
Mhm.
oh, I that's what. And so you probably think also she didn't
She
spend
didn't
any
even
of
chip
her
in.
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
She just used the money that they gave her and then pretended that she's the one that bought it.
Yes. So this is where kind of the real shit hits the fan. And this is what really happened. Abraham realizes that Yolanda has been embezzling money. He also learns that she had done stuff like this before in previous jobs. They confront her. She's like, "Oh my God, no, I would never do that." She's like, give me a chance." And this is bookended too with this big concert at the Astrodome. So we actually see a clip of
Mm,
it at the very beginning of the movie to kind of show like the highest heights that Selena reached. You see her again in this iconic purple outfit. I think that's like the outfit. If people are dressing up as Selena, like Kim Kardashian has
that's
dressed up as Selena in this outfit, Sierra has dressed up as Selena, like lots of people, if you dress up as Selena, they're wearing this purple outfit. It's like the purple jumpsuit with the little bolero shrug. And she does like the disco medley,
mm-hmm.
which is, you can listen to online. She does like Last Dance and I Will Survive, and then she's performing all of her hits. So that is at the beginning, and also here we're seeing more of the Astrodome concert. And then we start to hear the song Dreaming of You. And this song, for a while, like when I was a kid, I could not listen to this song because, like, it's what they play when Selena's dying.
Oh,
So,
oh.
like, in that was like forever associated. It's only like I still think of that if I
No,
listen to this
I can
song.
see that. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful song. But we don't see Selena get shot. We see only the aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
We hear like a news report. She's being loaded into the ambulance. Symbolically, like her hand falls open, the ring falls out. We see Yolanda, and like this stuff all really happened. Yolanda has barricaded herself in her truck. She's threatening to kill herself.
Right.
The police like talk her out of it. And then we also see the family at the hospital
Oh, yeah. And
get
that
notified.
and that's just heartbreaking to me. It
It's
really,
really sad.
even knowing what was going to happen. But
Hmm.
again, just yeah, I like I said, when I I finished watching the movie, I thought it's just so sad. You just
Yeah.
really it is a sad movie, but I mean some movies you sit and watch and you think, oh yeah, that happened and stuff. But this one it just really affected me much more than I thought it would.
Yeah. And she was only 23. She
I
was just
know,
shy.
I
She
know.
was like a couple weeks away from her 24th birthday. And I think it's extra sad because like towards the end of the movie, she's talking to Chris and to her mom about like wanting to have kids when she's like done with her next album and like
Oh, I
all this
know.
stuff, all these dreams she had. And she just like didn't get to do them.
And that's like Chris's reaction. That's
Hmm.
the one, and evidently, and rightfully so. The movie was made only a couple of years after she'd been killed. And he didn't really want anything to do with the movie. He couldn't visit the set. They said, he just
Yeah.
because he was so upset, and I can only imagine,
Hmm.
um, to lose someone, especially in that way.
Yeah. And you can see in the movie too that like immediately the public reaction, like there's vigils
Oh,
across
oh,
Texas.
yeah.
George W. Bush was the governor of Texas at the time that she was killed, and he named like a Selena Day, I think on her birthday.
Hmm.
So it was like a big deal. Like she was big, especially in Texas.
Especially, yeah, down in the Southwest. So,
She was even like a big inspiration to like Beyonce. So, Beyonce grew up in Houston. It's not, she's in
hmm,
Southeast Texas also.
yeah.
And there's a scene, so there's actually a Netflix series that's about Selena also. And there's a scene in it, which like is a thing that apparently actually happened that like Beyonce's mom brought her to like, Selena,
Oh,
people perform in like parking lots and stuff like at the mall and whatnot.
yeah.
And Beyonce like went to see Selena at one of those
Oh,
things. So like
okay.
Beyonce as a kid was a Selena fan.
Was this there?
Um,
You go. So,
so
and
which is
you can
like,
sort of see, yeah. I mean, like you said, how far would her influence reached? Had she lived?
yeah, exactly.
Just
Right. Cause this
look at
is
it for only a few years, and look where it's at.
Exactly. And like her English language album, which she was recording before she died, was released after she died, and it like reached the top of the charts. It sold
Yeah.
like a ton of albums. So, and they're good songs. Like
Hmm.
I recommend, even if you just like listen to like Selena's greatest hits just to get a taste, I think you can get they're good songs. Like she has upbeat songs. Bitty Bitty Bom Bom. Like Como La Flor is more upbeat, but it's still kind of a sad song.
Hmm.
Baila esta cumbia is upbeat. Amor Prohibido is like a fun, more ballady because it's about forbidden love. And then you have like No Me Queda Más, like that's a more of a ballad. And then you have the English language ones, which are more these kind of 90s pop ballads that a lot of
Yeah,
the women were,
the love things. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, were
yeah.
releasing at the
Unbreak
time.
My
These like,
Heart, like you
yes,
said. Yeah.
exactly. Like a lot of the Celine Dion, like of the mid
Hmm.
90s, like that
Yeah.
feel in her English language songs. So I think I definitely recommend listening to them. And I think this is a good point. So Selena died on March 31st, 1995. This movie came out in March 1997. So they basically started immediately after she died.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And they started because the family gets wind that there's all these like unauthorized books, documentaries, movies that other people are trying to put out. So they're like, we have to get ahead of this. Basically, we have to put ours out first so people can hear like the real story.
Story.
So they got in contact with producers, and they eventually bring on a director, writer named Gregory Nava, who did a movie called My Family before this, which actually a lot of these actors were in.
Hmm.
Because it's about like a Latino family. So like Edward James Olmos was in it, Constance Marie was in it, Jennifer Lopez was in it, Lupe Ontiveros was in it, Jacob Vargas, who plays AB, he was in it. So like all these people had worked with Gregory Nava before, but he's also like a Latino.
Hmm.
Um, he sat down with everybody in the family and just interviewed them, took recordings of the interviews, and he wrote the screenplay based on that. So the family actually says that this is very accurate, pretty accurate depiction
Hmm.
of everything that happened. All of them say that, including Chris. And Chris Perez, I think he only watched it like in like 2012 or so, I think, like for the first time because it was too painful for
Oh,
him.
well, I can only
Um,
imagine.
and he sort of like live, I think like he blogged like on Facebook, his like
Oh, while he
reactions
was
throughout.
watching it.
I think he stopped, he didn't watch the end, which you can understand.
Sure.
But it was like he's like, oh my God, like the like elopement, he's like, that's like exactly how it was.
Really.
Um, yeah, so a lot of it, the family says that it's very accurate. And then the casting. So like we said, this is Jennifer Lopez's breakout role,
Hmm.
but she was not like first in line. First of all, they're auditioning people, like thousands and thousands of people. That's how they got the girl who played young Selena. She was kind of a new person that they got at an audition in Harlingen, Texas, which is ironic because that's actually where they had their really bad performance at the fair.
Oh, okay.
That led
Yeah.
them to kind of like changing to more upbeat music. That's in Harlingen. So that little girl is
Okay.
from Harlingen, Texas.
That's kind of appropriate, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So they actually, and we discussed this, they offered the role first to Salma Hayek because she's a Mexican actress. And she said no, because it was too soon. It
Hmm.
was too emotional. And then they end up casting Jennifer Lopez. And people were not happy because
Which I didn't
Selena,
realize until
yeah,
I looked into this. Yeah, I had
yeah,
no idea that
I didn't
people
either.
would be
So,
unhappy about this.
right. And Selena, because Selena was Mexican from Texas, Jennifer Lopez, Puerto Rican from New York, which is like
Hmm.
very different. You can imagine even like white Texan people would be mad if like someone from New York was going to play like a famous Texan, right?
Sure.
Um, someone's going to play like, I don't know. I can't think of a famous Texan off the top of my head. Sam Houston.
But say they picked Robert De
But yeah.
Niro to play Sam Houston.
Yeah. So Texans would be mad. So and obviously like Mexican people and Puerto Rican people are not the same. They are the Spanish speaking world, but it's like just not the same.
Right.
So people were really upset. But Jennifer Lopez came. It sounded like it was a pretty grueling audition because you had to do a ton of pages. She had
Yeah,
to like
evidently.
sing, she had to dance, she had to like do all this stuff. But then she spent a lot of time with the family. So the family was super involved. Like Abraham Quintanilla basically got sort of veto power on everything. They got to be
Hmm.
involved in all of it, which is why, like I said, he wanted to take the elopement scene out, but the Gregory Nava kind of talked him into it. But the cast like was like having dinner with the family. They were spending time with them.
Hmm.
They were studying them to like learn how to, you know, portray them accurately.
Yeah, to be them.
Yeah. And the family said that like Jennifer Lopez had a lot of like the qualities of Selena, sort of this like playful, bubbly, like kind of thing. She even, I think, you know, it wasn't perfect, but I think that her accent was pretty good. She sounded a lot more Texan than from the Bronx for this movie. So I think that J.Lo did some
Uh, yeah, I mean,
good
I
accent
couldn't
work.
have said, yeah, she has an authentic Texas accent, but I wouldn't say that. Oh gosh, you can tell that she's from New York.
Right.
Trying to play someone from Texas. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I thought she did a really good job. I thought
Hmm.
so.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, and then maybe we can talk about the rest of the cast. So, obviously she's Selena. She was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actress for this role. She didn't win, but she was nominated, which like for your first like kind of big movie
yeah, I thought it was, yeah, and
is
I thought her
good.
performance was good. I thought it was
Hmm.
very good. So
Yeah, I mean, she like this has to be a hard ask, right?
oh
This
sure,
beloved person who just died,
right.
and you're gonna play them with her whole family like watching
Mhm,
you.
mhm, yeah, I mean, and
That's
this is fresh in everyone's
yeah,
mind. This is not like 10 years later, 20 years
right.
later. This is, yeah, this is like,
You're saying and doing things that like just happened
yeah,
that they remember very vividly, that they were there for.
and that were captured, that,
Hmm.
on film and
Oh yeah, you're
and
doing
recordings and so on and so forth.
you're lip syncing all of her songs, you're doing her performances,
Right,
like
exactly.
that's a lot, right? So
It's
that's
yeah, it's and for her to, portray her, honestly and believably, I think,
mhm,
and because knowing knowing what's going to happen, but
mhm.
then trying to not show, what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Then we have Edward James Olmos plays Abraham Quintanilla. For
Great
me,
actor.
like,
But
yeah, I know him as he actually wanted to direct this movie.
I did see that
Yeah, he was one of the people they were considering as a director, but
as a director, which
they brought Gregory Nava and then he got cast as Abraham, which I think like he did a really good job too. I think
yeah.
he portrays this father figure really well. If you don't know Edward James Olmos, for me, I know him from Stand and Deliver is like the other big movie. I watched that in high school.
Okay, yeah.
When I was taking AP classes and we finished, they showed us that because like it's about people taking like AP calculus.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, that's what I know him from. He's been in a million things though.
Miami Vice.
Okay, yes, Miami
Sorry,
Vice.
he was the captain on Miami Vice. He was Sonny
Sure.
Crockett's boss, and then that's the first time I remember seeing him, in anything. And then he was in Battlestar Galactica, the
Oh
remake,
yes, that I do recall because my grandfather used to watch that,
Adama.
and I was like, oh, it's Abraham Quintanilla because this is the first thing I'd ever seen him in.
Oh, okay, I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
so but
again,
yeah,
like it came out. I was 7 when this movie
yeah,
came out, so
and
I wasn't watching a lot of Battlestar Galactica at
he
the
had a
time.
small role in West Wing. He played a
Mm,
Supreme Court nominee and
okay.
later justice. So yeah, so
Yeah. So
great actor. So yeah.
he's in a lot. Constance Marie plays Marcella, the mom, which I also think is funny because she's like a couple years older than Jennifer Lopez, and she's
I know
playing her
she's not.
mom.
I know she was even when they tried to make her up to be older with the glasses and the different hair. It's like she still looks like her sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like because the first thing I thought, when I was watching this, because I didn't know what her real parents looked like,
Mhm.
but I was looking. I don't know what Jane. I don't know what her dad had, but boy, he married way up.
um.
We all do. Most men do, but I'm just saying, James Edward
Yeah.
Olmos, his Abraham really, I don't know if it was his singing ability or his smoothness or whatever, but he hit the lottery. So that's all I can
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. But Constance Marie, who plays Marcella, again, what I know her from is she's the wife in the George Lopez show. She plays George
Oh,
Lopez's
oh,
wife.
oh, oh, okay. That's why she looked familiar.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep, yep, yep,
She's
yep.
the wife there.
Okay.
Um, Chris Perez is played by John Seda. He's another person that I think is in a lot of stuff.
A lot
He's
of things, yeah,
if
and
you've
a good
ever
actor,
watched,
good solid
yeah,
actor.
the HBO miniseries The Pacific, which is like
Mhm.
the counterpart to Band of Brothers. Like Band of Brothers is in Europe, The Pacific is in the Pacific Theater during World War II. He is in that. He was on Chicago PD. He was on Homicide: Life on the Street. So a
Oh,
lot of,
okay.
I think mostly TV work is what like I remember him from.
Yeah,
But he plays Chris Perez, and like we mentioned, Chris Perez like didn't want to come to set. He didn't want to be as involved as everybody because he was obviously like devastated that his wife was murdered. But he did. John Seda did talk to him. He did get to go interview him and learn, get his insights on
yeah.
things. And he did kind of trick him into coming to set to play guitar to be
But
filmed for that scene. So if you're watching it and you see the fingers flying on the frets, that
it
was
it
actually Chris Perez.
it's Chris doing the riffs and being the heavy metal artist that I guess he still was or could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lupe Ontiveros plays Yolanda Saldivar. Like I said, she's definitely much older than the real Yolanda Saldivar, so I don't know.
I
I didn't get any insight when I was reading like what the choice was in terms of casting. Obviously, she had been in, as I mentioned, she was in My Family, which is the movie that
oh,
this
okay.
director did that a lot of these people were in. So I'm like, maybe
I
they were
don't.
just like, we know her and she can be like nice, but also like dastardly,
Yeah,
secretly.
and she is supposed to be older, so she's way older. So we'll go
Yeah,
ahead
they're
and
just
just go with it.
emphasizing that. But yeah,
Yeah,
she is someone when I was a kid. So this is like the first thing I saw her into. So then every time I saw her from then on, I'm like, you killed Selena.
yeah. Yeah, you.
Um,
I hate you.
yeah, which was really funny too because she was on obviously she has since passed away. She died I think in 2012, but before that this is the thing. She's another person that was in like a million things. So you
Hmm.
if you're like I've seen that lady before, you certainly have because she's been in a million things. I know her from she was in Desperate Housewives. She played the mother-in-law of Gabrielle Solis, Ava Longoria.
Oh, okay.
Her character's mother-in-law is this lady. And so it's funny because she's also like a little bit
Oh, so
villainous
yeah,
in the
that's
way of like a
because I
mother-in-law.
remember her husband,
Yeah.
Yolanda's son on
Yeah,
Desperate
yeah.
Housewives. So yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
okay,
I
yeah,
can't think of his name. His
I
last name
know.
was Solis, but like
Yeah,
I could
yeah,
picture him. But
yeah,
she had tension with Gabrielle
yeah,
Solis. Like so
yeah.
it is funny to see her as like sort of a villain on that show. But that's the other thing. Maybe if you watch Desperate Housewives, then she's Gabrielle's mother-in-law on Desperate Housewives. A couple of other people. Jackie Guerra played Suzette. I don't know what else she was in. She
I
wasn't
don't
in
know.
anything else that I was familiar with. And then Jacob Vargas plays AB Quintanilla. And the main thing that I know him from, he plays Ramon in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Oh, okay.
So if you've seen that movie, he's the guy. Romy works at like the rental car place, and he's like the mechanic that hits on her all the time. She has to pretend to sleep with him to like get the car. She's like, "Oh, Ramon." He's Ramon.
Gotcha.
Um, so and put a pin in that because Romy and Michelle will definitely be coming up on this podcast in the not too distant future. So,
Okay, all right.
but yeah, so that's the main cast. As I mentioned, it's directed by Gregory Nava. He also wrote the screenplay. He did this My Family movie in 1995, so I think that's probably
Mm.
where a lot of these connections came from because this was obviously they started work on Selena very shortly after that was released. So, a
Well,
lot of
they had
these,
to in order for this movie to be released in '97. So I
yeah,
mean, they had to have started
because
production at least a year
they had to
or
write it. He had to meet
exactly
everybody, interview them, write it,
right.
cast it, shoot it, edit it, all that. So
Yeah.
they, like I said, it was pretty right away that they got started on it. He also did after this he did Why Do Fools Fall in Love, which was the biopic of Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
Oh, okay.
And he wrote the screenplay for the movie Frida, which is like the
Mm.
movie where Salma Hayek plays Frida Kahlo. Gregory Nava wrote that screenplay.
Oh,
So
I did not know that. Okay,
other
so
things that you might
mhm.
know him from.
Another biopic,
Yes,
and
so
with two other biopics. Yeah, so
he's a biopic master, I guess.
yeah, evidently.
But yeah, I think part of the reason why they wanted him is because he is Latino also. They have this full Latino cast. I think that's also what they were trying to sort of push when people were having backlash about Jennifer Lopez, they're like, listen, this is a movie kind of made by and for like Latino people,
Right.
right? It's
Yeah.
like we have
Hmm.
a full like Latino cast here.
Right. Yeah.
We are
Including the director.
right. We are trying, and I think one of the producers was too. Like
Yeah.
we're trying to like tell this story in our way.
Yeah. And to be as accurate as possible. But, yeah, they also made maybe some, I won't say liberal choices with the casting, but, but you can't help but if you just took a photo of Selena and stood it next to a photo of Jennifer Lopez,
Mhm.
they're like the dead ringers. I'm not saying Salma Hayek couldn't have done a good job or whatever it may be, but I just, after seeing the movie, I don't know that I could have seen anybody else in that role.
Yeah, and like I don't know, like can Salma Hayek dance? Because like Jennifer Lopez was
I
a
don't
fly
know
girl, so at least
exactly.
like she has moves.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
they could have taught her, for some of it, but you could just see though. I thought in the scenes anyway where she's dancing on stage and stuff, it just looked very natural to her.
yeah,
So
yeah. Like I think that J.Lo did like at the end of the day, she did a great job,
hmm.
and so if she's best for the role, she's best for the role. So,
Agreed.
and it's funny too because I've seen red carpet appearances lately, and I'm like Jennifer Lopez. I feel like her Spanish speaking is about at the same level as Selena's because she's like promoting this movie with Sterling K. Brown, and she's like trying to speak to like the Univision. She's like trying to think of like a Spanish word, and he's like, "Oh, you mean?" She's like, "How do you say to show?" And he's like, "Mostrar." He's like supplying Spanish words for her.
Nice.
He is not. He is not
What?
Latino. She.
What?
So I was like, "Oh, you like are Selena. You are."
Yeah,
Me
yeah,
siento
exactly.
muy
Yeah,
excited.
yeah, uh-huh.
But so yeah, since as I mentioned, since this movie came out, not that long ago, there was a show in I think like 2021. There was a show on Netflix that had 2 seasons. It's called Selena. That show had I read a Rolling Stone article about it. I can link it in the description. It got a lot of pushback because when people watched it, they're like, "This is about Abraham."
Oh, really?
And AB. And it portrays Selena as a little bit more like doing everything her dad says.
Sort of like just following dad's instructions
But
and
yeah, like
so
more
on.
meek and docile, which like if you watch the movie is like not the vibe at all, right? Like she like loves her dad and clearly wants to like please him, but she pushes back on him a
Yeah.
lot.
She seemed to be the one making, I won't say the big decisions, but like important decisions, about, like you said, venues, song choice, music choices, how to handle
Wardrobe,
very much wardrobe. So,
who she's getting married to.
yeah, the little stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I think if you're portraying someone, I haven't watched the show on Netflix. I will just say because I think because there's a lot of like pushback that I was like maybe I'll just keep the movie as like
there you
my point
go.
of reference.
Hmm.
But like I can't if someone's being portrayed as like really meek and docile, how do you explain that person like running away and eloping?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. But the other thing too is I think there is I also read this in the that Rolling Stone article, there is less goodwill from fans toward the Quintanilla family these days because first of all, there's conflict between them and Chris Perez.
Oh, really?
So what happened was like he tried to write a book about like his life with Selena and they blocked him. So what happened was immediately after Selena died, like obviously he as the husband would
Hmm.
inherit everything, but he was too grief stricken. So he was like, you guys can take care of it. Like
Hmm.
just you guys can do the paperwork. And her dad and like immediate family, they like took the rights to everything.
Really?
Yeah. So they blocked him from writing a book about his life with his wife because they
That's
like own the rights to her life.
that's sad.
Yeah. So that's one thing. So
Mean.
then like they making this Netflix show, he wasn't consulted at all. And so he's like, that's like me. Like I'm being portrayed. Like in the second season, he
Right.
appears and he has no say
In how
in
he's
in
portrayed
how
or
he's portrayed or
or
like the
his
story or
character.
anything. And it's
Oh,
like
that
there's things that happen between me and Selena that they were not there for.
yeah. Oh,
right? They
sure.
only have
Yeah.
secondhand information. So the other thing is they apparently there are lots of people that do Selena tribute acts, right? Just like lots of famous singers, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
Elvis tribute, there's tribute bands to like every there's Beatles tribute bands. They go after like Selena impersonators. Like they sue them.
Really?
Hmm. Apparently. So please don't sue me for singing like two lines of Como La Flor. um, but like they like go after people, which I think also harms the goodwill of the fans toward them.
Well,
Because it's
yeah,
like imagine if like the Presleys went after every Elvis impersonator.
exactly.
Like,
Any of them. We see tribute acts. Denise and I've gone to, a couple of them where, it's like for the Eagles or Linda Ronstadt or whatever it may
hmm
be, and
there's a million like Beatles tribute
yeah,
bands.
yeah.
Like,
And these are tribute bands to groups or people that are still alive or even still
right,
performing, and nobody seems to really mind. It's like, whatever. So
right. And like they're helping for people that are dead, like they're helping keep
yeah,
this
that
person's
legacy.
legacy alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like people want to hear like these people are never going to get to see Selena live,
No.
right? So they just want to like see someone sing and dance to the music, you
Right,
know?
and
Like,
and if someone can, do as long as they're not doing it as a disservice, or
hmm
really bad at it, or
right.
trying to make a mockery of it,
Hmm.
that's a different thing. But
Right. Like they're paying respect to her. Like people still, I was reading, like people still love Selena to the point that like, so a lot of, Day of the Dead.
hmm
So for Day of the Dead, it's a Mexican tradition. You have an ofrenda, which is like, you put pictures of your dead relatives and you put stuff they like so that they'll come visit you. People put Selena on their ofrendas
on their really, so hoping
because
that,
she is so meaningful. Like people dress up as her for like Dia de los Muertos. Like people still feel such a connection to her. And so for like this idea that like her family, that
would,
part of her family are like these people are not trying to make money off of her. They're not trying to take money out of your pocket.
yeah, I was
They're
gonna say
trying to just
they're not taking the food out of
enjoy.
your mouth.
Right.
Yeah,
You guys are rich. You guys made so much money off of her. Like just let people like enjoy her. Like wouldn't that I don't know. Like I feel like that would like bring me happiness if people were
yeah,
my loved one people were like
yeah,
doing this.
yeah, especially if they did it, and I'm sure that they try to do it in a good way, and not in,
Right.
yeah,
They're just trying to, look like her and sound like her and like,
yeah.
wear the outfits and dance like her because all of those things are like great. People want to celebrate that.
I didn't know that about the recent, this issue with the family, and especially with her husband.
Yeah.
Her.
That was like a real bummer when I read that. I was like,
I
why
know
would you
that's,
want to kind of push him away like that?
or like even stop him from telling his side of his story with her, as husband and wife.
Right. And I'm sure that it wasn't going to be like bad or
Or some
salacious. It was just like
expose,
their
just,
love story,
yeah.
probably.
So,
Like,
that they cared about each other. Maybe that, like you said, in the movie, they talked towards the end about having children, their dreams together or whatever, their
hmm
future, not just the next year or whatever, but 10, 20, 30 years down the road, people who marry, that's one of the things after the first, year or so, you start thinking about, this is the person I want to grow old with. This is the person I want to spend my life with, not
hmm
just these next years, or this next
right.
2 years or three
Right.
years, but like, forever. So
Yeah. And he clearly like really appreciated her talent. Like you see all those moments of like obviously this is in the movie, but I'm sure that this felt accurate too of him just like, being on stage behind her playing guitar and just like kind of looking in awe of her.
yeah,
And I'm sure that like he probably would have written about like what it's like to have a front row seat to like someone being so like amazing and talented and like their star just kind of exploding.
yeah. Or yeah, or maybe how down to earth she really was, and
Hmm.
that she wasn't like this diva or this prima donna or whatever,
Yeah. I
that.
always think of that part in the movie where they're like, oh, she's like, oh, people ask me, how do I stay so skinny? It's like, well, I eat whole pepperoni pizzas by myself and I don't exercise.
Yeah, that's how I stay so slender and fit. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny. I want to drink Cokes and
Yes.
scarf down Doritos.
Yes. I love that part too. Right after like Suzette is like, this cabinet
Yeah,
is mine. No one touch it. And then as soon as she walks away, Selena eats it.
is grabbing the
She's like,
Doritos bag,
yeah,
and
what are you doing? I'm eating your Doritos.
and then just just like matter of factly, like yeah, just whatever. Yeah,
Yep.
because even Chris is like fascinated the fact that she can eat a whole pizza.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, I can eat a whole medium pizza all by myself. That's no problem. With lots of pepperoni,
Yes, covered in pepperoni.
covered in pepperoni. So
So,
yeah, unfortunately, a great life and a terrific person. It cut so short, so
hmm,
and so suddenly, um,
yeah, yeah.
in a very tragic, meaningless way over
Hmm.
something.
Yeah, over like money.
Money. And you get the feeling that the way even though they didn't portray the relationship in great detail between Selena and Yolanda in the movie, that if Yolanda had needed money or wanted money,
Hmm.
if she would have come to Selena and said, I have bills, or can you help me, or what, Selena probably would have just given her the money,
Yeah.
without
Hmm.
her having to resort to you know stealing and embezzling and
Yeah.
covering up and stuff. So
Yeah. Absolutely. So, well, Yolanda Saldivar remains in prison in Texas. She comes up for parole every so often, but I actually think, um,
is it Chris?
I don't
Somebody
know.
goes to her parole hearings, I think, don't they?
I
Or
don't know. I'm sure
somebody in the
Selena
family.
fans are,
Yeah, are up in arms about that, or at least come to voice their opinion.
yeah.
um
Yeah. I think that they write letters.
well, good, they should. So I wondered, did Chris ever remarry?
He did, but he got divorced.
Oh, well, I mean, gee, how'd you like to be the next person he marries after he marries Selena?
Yeah.
It's like,
I think it was like a full decade later. It was not like
even still,
close in
it's
time,
like,
but yeah,
oh,
still.
by the way, who were you married to before? Selena. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So you said in the beginning, though, that you first saw this movie on TV, you think, with your dad, or
I think so.
on the DVD, that you think? Because
I
I
think it
don't think
was
I ever see this movie on TV.
it used to come on TV. Like I think it came on like E and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I definitely have seen it on TV. But I think we
Okay.
probably rented it too because I think it was a favorite of both of ours.
Sure.
Because I think, like I said, we like the music. I think
Hmm.
it's a good movie. Top five J.Lo for me.
Oh,
The rest of my
easily.
top five, like it's Selena, it's Enough, it's The Wedding Planner, Out
Oh.
of Sight. Out of Sight, I think she only did like a year after this. So
Hmm.
she goes from this to a movie with Clooney, so she really took
Yeah.
off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then Hustlers, the more recent movie Hustlers.
Oh, okay. So,
She was really good in that too. I recommend that also. She should have people felt she should have been nominated for an Oscar for her
oh,
performance
okay.
in that.
I did not see that. I will say that Denise and I watched her in a recent movie, which we enjoyed, a good rom com, "Marry Me,"
Yes, with Owen Wilson.
and she said that that was the first movie she got to sing in since Selena, and she really
Hmm.
wanted to do a movie where she could sing,
Yeah.
and she really enjoyed the experience of that. And I have to admit, it was a good movie. I thought it was very, very
Mhm.
good. So,
Yeah, it was entertaining. I thought it was
hmm
funny.
hmm
Yeah, I will say, J-Lo is a singer. J-Lo is not a singer on the par of Selena. It is a joke that many people make that uh J-Lo singing is, I think even J-Lo said in like this new documentary, she was like, nobody's sitting around wondering when the next J-Lo album is coming out. Like, so, she's
That's
not on
funny.
Selena's level, but she delivered the performance. Like she is a performer. J-Lo is a star, period.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't think that's arguable. Best wishes for her and Ben Affleck, because apparently
I guess
things
it's
are
working.
rocky.
Oh, did not know
Apparently they're
that.
living separately
Is
right
there?
now.
Ooh,
There's
uh-oh,
trouble
trouble
in
in
Bennifer
paradise.
2.0 paradise.
Uh-oh, did not know
So
that.
we'll see. Because I think apparently the thing is she likes the spotlight stuff and he does not. He's there for the art, He likes to make the movies. He doesn't like to do all the other stuff.
All the
She
all the
likes
glitzy stuff.
all of that. So
Hey,
apparently. It's what I read. So we'll see. Good best of luck to them.
Yeah, 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 I
Um,
do, yeah. I don't wish
but yeah,
anybody ill will.
of course. But yeah, I think this movie, like, you just can't watch this and not think that like J.Lo is great in this
I
movie,
agree, yeah.
period.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, I think that this movie just like it's sad, I think, ultimately because like she's not here, but I think it just is such a good portrait of like a talented person, like a warm, funny person who has like very creative and talented, and it just makes you want to listen to the music. So
mhm.
if you
And
haven't seen Selena, I think you should see it.
agreed. For those of you who either have heard of it but never bothered to watch it, or you didn't think it would interest you, give it a chance, give it a try. Seriously, I think you'll enjoy it. I certainly did, and
Yeah.
I'm a better person for watching, and I really believe that. So,
Okay. Well, I'm glad. Yeah. I think in some ways Selena is one of those people that sort of becomes kind of a mythic figure like because they died. But I also feel like watching this movie, you can see that it's not like she was going to fizzle out.
oh yeah,
She was
no,
still around. Like
yeah,
she was clearly like super
she
talented.
she
People
was
like
in
to
it for
work
the
with
long
her.
haul.
Yeah, like so she I think would have really
Oh yeah, there
um kept it going.
another, Gloria Estefan, comes to mind, somebody, yeah, who just keeps rising, rising, rising in that star. It may plateau or maybe, level out a little bit, but,
Yeah, she
still,
might have had like a Las Vegas residency at some point, but it would have
hey,
been great.
I'd have been there. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I went to go see Celine with Denise in Las Vegas. So, yep.
I
So,
wish I had. That's like one of my regrets in life that I didn't go see
oh,
Celine Dion and now I'm never going to be able to.
it was. So, yeah, it was really good. It was a good show. So,
So yeah. If you haven't watched Selena, watch it. Listen to her music. It's really great. Even if you don't know Spanish, it's still Jim can attest.
bitty bitty bomb
Catchy.
bomb. I'm
Bitty
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 bum
bomb bomb.
bum.
I'm just telling you, it's
They're just catchy
yeah,
songs.
yeah.
And
So
she has some English ones too, so you can listen to them as well. But I think you're gonna want to bop a little bit regardless when you listen. So any final thoughts, Jim?
no, again, like I said, thank you again for the recommendation. It was another terrific one on your end, and I'm looking forward to your next pick. So
Great. Well, with that, thank you for listening. Please leave us a review or a comment wherever you're listening to this. Hopefully, a nice one. You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. And until next time, bye bye.
take care.